Welcome to African Rising. Today we'll look at various ports and infrastructure corridors across southern Africa. First, we'll look at Beira port in Mozambique. Now, Beira port is an important port with about 400,000 TEU capacity, and it's important because of its proximity to Zimbabwe and Zambia. The distance from Beira to Harare, the capital in Zimbabwe, being about 560 kilometers, and the distance from Beira to Lusaka, the capital in Zambia, being about 1,060 kilometers. Therefore, it's an important port. Now, the highway which goes from Beira to Chimoio and onwards to Machipanda, the border post between Mozambique and Zimbabwe, that highway stretches through the Sofala province and near the Gorongosa National Park. And when Frelimo and Renamo in Mozambique were in a war, Renamo had a military base in the Gorongosa National Park, and therefore, from time to time, there were interruptions because of shootings in the area on that highway stretch. So now the situation there is stable, but regardless, it's important to maintain security awareness of what's going on in that area. The most important port in southern Africa is Durban. Durban port has about 3.6 million TEU capacity. It's a very large port. And the highway which goes from Durban to Johannesburg is the N3 highway. Now that highway has seen protests from time to time, and therefore interruptions can happen in logistics operations in that highway stretch. So it's important to be aware of that as well. Now the distance from Durban to Johannesburg is about 600 kilometers. And the distance from Durban to Lusaka is about 2,300 kilometers. But that goes via Beitbrigde, which is the border post between South Africa and Zimbabwe. That is a very congested border post. But this week they opened the Kazungula bridge between Botswana and Zambia. Therefore, if you drive from Durban via the Kazungula bridge to Lusaka, it's only 100 kilometers longer, 2,400 kilometers. So that is an alternative route. It's always good to have, Plan B and Plan C when you have logistics operations, particularly in this region. Cape Town is an important port with about 1.4 million TEU capacity. Therefore, that's also, of course, has a lot of opportunity. The interesting developments also to see at Walvis Bay. Walvis Bay being in Namibia, they just opened a new container terminal, last year, or actually August 2019, but really opened last year. And now they have about, 750,000 TEU capacity. The distance from Windhoek into Lusaka or even into Johannesburg, while it is obviously longer than it is from Beira into these areas, still, Namibia has excellent infrastructure, very good roads. Personally, I've driven on buses across Namibia and across South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and even also in Mozambique. So I've seen the roads myself on the ground. And the stretch from Namibia, from Windhoek, goes via the Caprivi Strip and onwards into Zimbabwe and onwards into DRC. So these are some of the connections that I think are important to be aware of. But if you have logistics operations in Southern Africa, and maybe you have a large base in Durban or near Johannesburg, maybe you want to have a second option. And then I think that Walvis Bay is a very good option to have to be considering, also because of the low risk level. Not really much risk for protests really that prevent and interrupt logistics operations, as you can see on the N3 highway from Durban to Johannesburg from time to time. And the risk level, as we see in South Africa, does evolve from time to time in various areas. So I think it's important to be aware of that. Now, South Africa obviously is a very important country, 60 million people, it's a large population in Southern Africa, and is a very important economic driver despite the situation which is ongoing in terms of the risk level which fluctuates. But in Mozambique, because of the situation in the north of Mozambique now in the Cabo Delgado region with the jihadi attacks, the ports there are also impacted. But it's important to have, security awareness and maintain, a really good an observation on what's going on in the region. So if you have, primarily one logistics route you're utilizing, perhaps it's good to have a plan B and always, think about that and consider that. And then, look at, the whole Southern African region from a larger holistic perspective. So you have the Walvis Bay via Windhoek, across the Caprivi Strip into Zimbabwe and Zambia and Botswana. You also have then from Durban via, of course, Johannesburg up through either Beitbrigde or the Kazungula bridge, onwards into Zimbabwe or Zambia. And you have from Beira port in Mozambique into Zimbabwe and Zambia and onwards into Lubumbashi in southern DRC. Now, there are various other ports as well. Of course, you have Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, you have Mombasa up in Kenya, and then you have, of course, in Angola, in Luanda, and onwards up, Matadi in DRC. So there are various ports, in the eastern and western corridors as well. But these are some of the corridors I'd like to mention. But maintain security awareness. what is going on in the area in terms of the risk level. You have to have solid logistics providers, really with an experience and operational understanding of how it is, and with integrity, so that the drivers, you really know the delivery points, and that things will be delivered on time. Of course, there can be interruptions and delays, and that is also important to be aware of. But regardless, you have to have people and partners you trust and that really have integrity. So as long as they have operational and logistics experience, and that's really important. So thank you so much for joining, and I look forward to see you next week.